agree with this statement from Tekena Tamuno, Professor Tekena Tamuno. Tamuno, that name rings bell from thinking from Bayelsa or Idisijo side, but that is not what we are talking about now. He said, Igbo are the makers of modern Nigeria. Do you really agree with Professor Tekena Tamuno? That Igbos are the makers of modern Nigeria. In what way? Let's get to the meaning of what he said. I always insist that the greatest merit for Igbos in recent times is not simply the advent of the internet on the surface. It is the social media aspect of the internet which now allows independent thinkers to challenge the lies of history. In Nigeria, our little corner of the world, through social media presentations, scholars are now debunking the false stories perpetuated by the Yoruba press with the help of the North, who has always been paranoid about Igbos. The Yorubas took advantage of their civil war takeover of the press to rewrite the history of Nigeria as it favors them. And if you believe them, every post-independence success in Nigeria was Awolowo influenced, and every problem in Nigeria was instigated by Azikiwe, Ujuku, and the Igbos. The truth is reluctantly coming out, and Igbos are gradually being vindicated. According to Professor Tekena Tamuno, a great historian and former Vice Chancellor University of Ibadan, he said the problem with writing skewered history is that it equally misinforms its target. Kayode Esho was a great jurist, but Akune Oputa was the Socrates of the Supreme Court. Enaro was a young editor, but Azikiwe made him made him that young editor with Osita Aguna and his assistant. At his paper, The Southern Nigeria Defender in Ibadan, where my own father incidentally stated or started as a rookie before shortly abandoning journalism for the stable breadth of the civil service. The might of Awolowo as building the first this and that does not even match the documented economic history of the period between 1954 and 1964. Eastern Nigeria was described as the fastest growing economy in the world by the Harvard Review, faster than China, faster than Singapore, and all the so-called Asian tigers. Awolowo is often credited with free education, but no one yet has pointed out any surviving school building of the period built by Awolowo, but all over the East there were quality schools built by the various communities using the town development unions from 1954 and accessing the matching grants of the Eastern Nigeria Development Corporation. And this was the East with the poorest revenue resources of any of the regions. The Mbese Secondary School exists, the National High School Okigwe exists, the Ungwa High School exists, the Iyongugu Grammar School exists, and so on. These were solid schools built all over the East with matching government grants. But where are the buildings of the modern schools in Western Nigeria? They do not exist. They were makeshifts. The Catholic Church forced the Azikiwe government from its scholarship program, but it is also on record that the Eastern government was the only government in the world that invested 45% of its revenues in education. The East had the highest number of schools, the highest school enrollment, the broadest penetration of medical services, and the best modern road network in West Africa. Indeed, if we look carefully, the only public hospitals and most of the schools still standing in the East today at various stages of rundown are the schools and hospitals built by Azikiwe and Opara. Every division of the East had a joint hospital as part of the Eastern Medical Services. So it is often claimed Awo built the first television station, the first skyscraper, and the first sports stadium, the Liberty Stadium in Ibadan. Well, these are prestige or white elephant investments. First, The Eastern Outlook, the government's paper of Eastern Nigeria, was the first newspaper established by any government in Nigeria, and it was of such quality and impact that the literacy level of Easterners and the depth of public information retailed by Outlook was without compare. This is besides the fact that Western Nigerian Broadcast Services, founded in 1958, only preceded the EMBC TV, founded in 1959, by only 7 months, while Outlook preceded Sketch by about 15 years. Now, Azikwe beats the Onitsha Modern Market, the first modern mall or trade emporium in West Africa. Onitsha was effectively Dubai before Dubai. People traveled all over Africa, from as far as the Congo and Sudan and Egypt, to come and buy and trade in Onitsha. The economic impact of this was humongous. So give me the vast Onitsha modern market over Cocoa House in Ibadan. Azikiwe built the first Nigerian University of Atinsuka with the first school law, the first school of engineering, the first business school, the first school of journalism, and the first school of music and performance, and so on. By the time its first graduates took the Nigerian civil service exams in 1963, everybody began to raise the cry of Igbo domination, starting with Akintola and Ayo. Rosiji, give me UNN over Liberty Stadium. Hmm. Oh my God, Azikwe began the first modern library system in West Africa. The East had a system of city libraries, starting with the very modern Zix Library in Enugu. I literally grew up in the Umahia Divisional Library. These libraries were built all over the East. Schools in the East were built with libraries. Moreover, the Eastern Nigerian Library Board had a system of rural and mobile libraries. There was nothing like it anywhere in Nigeria. Kids having library cards and able to borrow or order books from the public library. Give me the first library over the first TV. I do not by this mean that Awolowo did not make his contribution, but the regular skewing of the facts and angling of contemporary national narratives often makes it seems these days like the greatest contributor to the founding of Nigeria and its development is Awolowo and the Yoruba, when the actual facts speak differently. The Great Ibadan historian Tekena Tamuno was unambiguous in stating once at a NIPPS just that the Igbos are the makers of modern Nigeria. When they abandoned their project, the Nigeria collapsed. We must remind Nigerians, particularly Igbo children, daily of this fact to achieve what Achebe called a balance of stories, and that also means we must read beyond the surface of things. uh Barbarisa's Guardian essay is angled carefully to maintain a revisionist narrative, and that is to be always challenged, however innocent it might seem. Even today, most Yoruba think that Awolowo founded the University of Ibadan and Lagos. No one has reminded them that it took Azikiwe's precious for a university for Nigeria. In his meeting with Arthur Richards in 1946, that led to the constitution of the earliest commission and subsequently the founding of the University College Ibadan. This fact is even clearly conveyed in Michael Crowder's eponymous book, The Story of Nigeria. Nsukka was Azikiwe's critique of what he felt to be conceptual limitations of Ibadan. The University of Lagos was the result of NCNC's ideological contributions to the federal policy during the ill-fated coalition government with the MPC. Unilag was an NCNC project that shepherded by Aja Wachuku as Minister for Education. Even the great Unilag in our 50th anniversary failed to mention Professor Eni Njoku as the pioneer Vice Chancellor of the university, a man that laid the solid foundation of what made Unilag is today. This fact must be made known and put as fully across as possible again until the lion tells his own story. The story of the hunt will belong to the hunter. A word is enough for the why. So, guys, let's say your opinion and have your take on this.